running out of road, and it was that time then to do something for myself. So I set up my first business when I was 38 years of age, so it was no spring chicken.
That was a good age to be setting up.
Yeah. And my fourth daughter was just born, 38 years of age. I left Bewley's and I opened my first business, which was called Perk.
Were you saving money at the time to do this?
I had enough money. Well, I'd barely enough. I had a few shares in Bewley's, believe it or not, that I managed to sell in a private company, which was it was the first time anybody ever managed to do that. So no, I hadn't a lot, and I borrowed 50 grand off the Bank of Ireland as it was then, and Carol Bulger, who was the branch manager in the Bank of Ireland, who's now the chairperson in An Post, she lent me the money, and I opened the first shop in Grafton Street underneath Laura Ashley. And she used to come in and buy her sandwiches every day off me because she was afraid I was going to go bust. And she reckoned if she bought her sandwich there, that there was less chance of that happening.
Fair play.
And I nearly did go bust.
What did you say to her to convince her to take a punt on you? Because 50 grand was a lot of money, and you had experience, but like, why was this going to work?
I don't know. She reckoned and that was, you're right, it was a lot of money. And again, I was at a point where the house had to be remortgaged and that kind of thing, and it was all the bets were on this, and it had to work.
Did you feel the pressure?
Big time.
Bobby, my mammy asked me to ask you a question.
Yeah, go on.
It's very important. What's your favourite song?
My favourite song.
This is a measure of a man.
Yes.
Probably, maybe "Sultans of Swing" by Dire Straits.
Nice. Yeah, nice choice.
Are you going to play it for me?
No.
Yes, I had my electric, I would. No problem.
There's footage of you doing air guitar on YouTube.
Is there? I hope there isn't. It's probably my daughter's put that up.
That's a classic guitar song.
I'm a big music fan, always have been.
Yeah.
I still try and go, and COVID really upset this for me, but I try and go and see a gig once a month.
Lifts your spirit.
Again, I love live music particularly. I remember when we were young lads, we used to go and see the Stop Making Sense movie, the Talking Heads movie, in the Ambassador Cinema. It would be on every Saturday night, and we'd go in and see the same movie over and over again. But music, I think, is a big. I love music, and I like when I run. I listen to music. Yeah. I listen to music, quietly. I still have a decent stereo that just to put on a nice piece of music. It's great.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
What would you listen to when you're running?
A lot of compilations, but I'd listen to. I like progressive rock, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin,
Tin Lizzy.
I like
Lizzy, Genesis, all that late 70s stuff.
Brilliant. They're all box stickers, they're brilliant. Brilliant.
That's my genre.
Right. Yeah. We could have a whole other episode on that. You're in our world there as well, yeah. Okay.
Excellent.
So, moving on then, we were talking about going from being the MD of Bewley's to setting up
Perk.
Perk. Right. So that was your first shop, and you had your loan, and it was just starting. So, why when you're the MD, let's say, of Bewley's, and you're on a great salary, why would you take the leap into something as risky when you've got a family, you've got a new house,
everything's settled, life is good,
and you've no reason to believe this is going to work other than your own, intuition maybe, which is sometimes enough, but from the outside, you're like, it looks like a mad move. Where's your salary going to come from?
Yeah, and I questioned that, particularly in the early days when I was faced with some huge challenges of trying to keep the show on the road. And typically I didn't open one shop. I basically, my vision for the business was that we could get to 20 shops, and I opened 3 shops in very quick succession.
So you would have pitched that at the start. The plan here is 20 shops.
That was my business plan. I had 20 shops in it.
Right.
But I opened the first 3 shops too quickly. I didn't have enough money. I was undercapitalized, and I sailed a very fine line of being solvent and not solvent.
How did you get through that? What did that look like, Bobby?
It looked like me standing in the shop on Wednesday, not sure I could pay the wages on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's a rough
Yeah,
feeling.
that's a tough
And
feeling. Yeah.
it's do you know what it was a huge driver for me because I never wanted to let anybody down.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I got from somewhere. I don't know where, but I do have an abject fear of failure. And it's not a cliche. I genuinely have it.
Yeah.
And it's because I don't want to let people down.
Yeah.
And I always felt that way.
Did you have any self-doubt at that stage? Where you
Big time.
And how did you deal with it?
My way of dealing was to try and I threw myself further and further into the business, and I knew everything that happened. I was across every detail. I was able to maybe save money here and there because I was so close to the business. But I ended up with 6 shops, and I had a kind of a eureka moment that said, you know, if I keep running this way, I'll always have 6 shops.
Yeah.
I couldn't run any more shops.
Yeah.
On the way I was, I had no management. It was all me. I had a part-time bookkeeper who used to do the accounts.
Jesus.
And
It's not sustainable.
yeah,
it's
it
not,
wasn't. And I said, I'm going to have to do this differently.
And what timeline? What time frame are we talking about from when you opened the first to the sixth?
About 3 years. Yeah.
That's quite
Wow,
quick.
that is
Yeah.
very quick. Yeah.
To keep control
And-
over them, you know.
The
Like,
whole lot.
And then I was approached by Insomnia, who were competitors of mine,
yeah.
right? And there was another company called Bendini and Shaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Did you know these guys?
I did, and I wouldn't have known. I knew Harry from Bendini and Shaw better than I knew the Insomnia guys, but the Insomnia guys bought Bendini and Shaw, which was a sandwich company, and then they combined purchased me. So I sold my business, my 6 shops, and the deal was that I was to become the commercial director of
So your shares were gone.
of the combined entity, yeah.
Right.
And so then, after about 2 weeks of me working in this new combined entity, so we'd 17 shops, we decided they were all going to be rebranded Insomnia.
Was there a consultant used for that?
No, there
Just
was
the
no,
three of yous
just
having a chat.
Yeah, and they decided that they wanted me to be the managing director. I said I'll be the managing director, and I worked very closely with Harry O'Kelly, who's still the managing director to this day of Insomnia, and John Classy, who was the third wheel, who was the spar guy, and the 3 of us effectively bought out the original shareholders, and we drove on that collective business. So I wasn't the first to the party, but
It's an interesting
that's how it
sequence of
kind of
events.
morphed.
Yeah.
And we then scaled up the business from those 17 sites.
How big were the other guys when they came and approached you? How Bandini and Shaw? How big was their chain?
It was slight. They were all around the same.
Similar size.
No, slightly bigger maybe,
Slightly bigger.
but not much.
Right.
Yeah. So there were 3 businesses that were around the same size.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So do you know what? But it made sense that sometimes if you look at, and it made sense to me that, a third of something that's potentially going to be much bigger is way better than 100% of something that's only ever going to have 5 shops.
true, yeah.
That was my logic on it anyway, and it worked out.